We're back at 8:35 on this Labor Day. The job market is on the minds of millions of Americans. The latest figures show 216,000 jobs were lost in August, pushing unemployment to 9.7%. And Harvard professor Bill George says government leaders and CEOs are approaching the problem all wrong. His latest book is called 7 Lessons for Leading in Crisis. Bill, good morning. It's good to have you on.
Lester, good to be here.
You know, the headlines lately have been bottoming out of the recession, light at the end of the tunnel. Even at 216,000 job losses, we're losing them at a slower rate than we were before. What, in your view, is being missed in all this as we start to talk recovery?
Well, this is economists speak. The financial crisis is largely behind us, but the jobs crisis is getting worse by the day. And I'm very concerned. We've lost twice as many jobs already in this recession as in any other recession in the last 60 years.
But your focus is on right now that we're spending too much time trying to save jobs.
Yes.
You believe we should take it a step further to create jobs. Right. How do you do that?
We've put trillions into Wall Street. We aren't putting any money into creating jobs. We need to we're a society of instant gratification focusing on the short term. We need to focus on the long term, creating jobs through better manufacturing, through research, through better education, high-tech manufacturing. These are places we can create new company formation. We need to help small business owners who really need that help.
But the assumption is going to be that some of these jobs we've lost will ultimately come back. You're talking about on top of those. And by the way, is that a false assumption that some of these jobs will come back?
I'm not convinced they're going to come back. That's what's worrying me, because a lot of companies are becoming much more efficient. I think the way they're going to come back is by creating new companies, new jobs, and then exporting our products overseas. If we can unleash American creativity. The American worker is the most entrepreneurial, most creative in the world, and we need to get back to focusing on that, not just short-term satisfaction.
But what you talk about sounds like it needs to be a huge national effort. If you're going to start reclaiming or starting new industry, this is something that's going to take huge investment and almost a national will. Do you see any of that on the horizon?
No, I don't. And I think the president needs to get behind this, and I think business leaders and the administration need to work together to create how are we going to do this? And we know how to do this.
Companies need to reinvent themselves.
Absolutely. Yes.
You like to talk about an example with Pepsi in terms of reinventing. Explain it to me.
Yeah, Indra Nooyi is a great leader. In 2006, she took over Pepsi, realized that the obesity crisis was upon us, that they had a water shortage, diabetes, and she wanted to get out in front of that. Not like the cigarette makers, but she wanted to get out in front of it and create healthy foods. And that's what she's been doing the last 3 years, and shifting Pepsi steadily in that direction that affects all Americans.
Do you think we have not really accepted the reality of the unemployment crisis right now? Are we looking at it as a short-term, one-time thing and not really looking at a bigger picture?
Yeah, we're hunkering down. In my book, I talked about facing reality is the first thing we have to do. But we're at risk of a jobless recovery, which means waste this crisis. We need to restructure our whole economy to get focused on creating jobs, not just saving jobs.
Jobless recovery, meaning the stock market is up, home sales starting to show some pickup, other things around it.
But if, every family I know has either lost a job or is facing some kind of crisis. When I wrote 7 Lessons, it was to talk about universal lessons that affect everyone, personally, professionally. How do you deal with these things? Because I see leaders not dealing with them and families not dealing with them.
We love to make historical contrasts. Is there anything really that mirrors what we're going through right now with a recovery that may be jobless?
I don't think so. I think it's totally changed. When we come out of this recession, the economy is going to look totally different than it did before. And that's why I think the closest thing to it would be the 90s, when we focused so much on creating new companies. And we really had American industry really rolling in the late 80s throughout the 90s. And I think that's where we need to be, with incentives for long-term investment, not short-term investment, not just Wall Street investments, but Main Street.
It's an interesting view. The book is 7 Lessons for Leading in Crisis. Bill George, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you, Lester.
Have a good Labor Day.
Thank you.
Coming up next, Sean Kingston live in concert. But first, this is Today on NBC.